guess I was wrong. There is no trivia that I had to get to, so it's wrong. With this pandemic, it's really easy to get dates wrong. The days seem to go so quickly, and then sometimes they seem to go so slow. Um, Sometimes, I don't know why, it just seems that things go a lot quicker than others. Like, and I was just getting things out of the way. There we go. Here, that's better. Better. I can sit back a bit, pull up my top a little bit, fix that. There. There we go. Okay, so because then that way it's not getting overheated by any means. And there's still quite a lot of room left behind the computer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I know that I understand the fact that I was getting mixed up. I was wondering, okay, I've taken 2 things of pills so far, so I must have taken my lunch pills after my husband called. Yeah, okay. Wondering if car or my water is right there. Yeah, it is. That's good. That's my water's right there. I'll drink my water. Okay, there's one picture. Okay, I don't know what what I entitled this. Something just that I was wrong or something, I think. Um, I want to write hello. What are you doing? Okay. Okay. Mm, Okay, I'm not going to read a lot, but some. Okay, the cage. What? It's what you learn. You learn after you know it all. Or no, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I remember hearing their voices all the way down the hallway, passionate and loud, threatening and unforgiving, barely 22, fresh out of college, and headstrong, though some might say inexperienced, opinionated, and stubborn. I was prepared to face the challenge before me. I was escorted by a security guard, armed only with a walkie-talkie and a sincere smile. It was a smile of sympathy. I had received a call the night before that Portsmouth City Schools needed a long-term substitute. Immediately, a bridge class, consisted of students with discipline problems. The term bridge was an enthusiasm for students too young to drop out of school and too old to be keeping back. It was a school built in the early 1940s for a suburban community that eventually became urban. The regular teacher had a nervous breakdown in February and it was not March. So I was the 16th teacher after the first 13 teachers quit any school days. School security and the assistant principal took over the job of babysitting. I didn't know whether I didn't know it then, but other teachers in the school had christened the classroom the cage, a place where wild animals lived. No one stayed long enough to be alive. Room 211 was a classroom situated at the far end of the enormous school next to the stairwell. I thanked the security guard and entered. 12 or 28 pairs of eyes surveyed me. Some of them, or some of the eyes were hazel green, but mostly they were dark, the color of burnt cinders in a fireplace. They were the eyes of adults and the faces of children. Not children, really. Some were 12, but most were 13. But or some were 14 and 15-year-olds in the sixth grade classroom. I stood by the door. Two panes of glass were broken and the mental vent at the bottom of the door was missing. This allowed students to crawl through, even when it was closed. The bulletin boards were bare, save for some old faded crepe paper in the corners. Some of the students watched me watching them. Others ignored me completely and carried on as if I didn't exist. I, I learned some of their names and noticed on which desks they placed their belongings. Finally, in what I call my teacher voice, I said, for as long as you keep me waiting, I'll keep you waiting after school. And then I looked at my watch again. Some rolled their eyes at me, others continued to ignore me, and none of them really settled down much. They continued to ignore me. None really settled down. The security guard walked past the classroom. Do you need any help? He asked. No. Through my stomach, although my stomach was in knots, wanted to run home, and he laughed. I did not think he went far. After looking at my watch for the last time, I said, so far you've kept me waiting for 6 minutes. Therefore, you will wait after school for 6 minutes. Quentin, I want you to sit down in the second row, first seat. Ab- Abdul, first row, the third seat. The rest of you have exactly 30 seconds to settle down, upon which I will introduce myself and then will memorize your names by 8:45, and then we will begin with spelling. And on Friday, I will give you a test. By the time I finished, I heard the usual, how'd she know your name? Or she thinks she's going to be our teacher now. And other than more careful part or colorful parts of speech, I had their attention. The stage was mine, and I pulled out a large neon yellow poster board and a roll of gray duct tape with exaggerated effort. I taped a poster to the chalkboard. In big black letters, the poster read, Mrs. Clancy's Rules. God had 10 commandments and I have 12. And slightly smaller but unusual important were two columns of 6 rules. And then I turned to the class and began. My name is Mrs. Clancy. I'm 22 and I just moved here to Virginia. I'm from New York and I'm going to be here until June. And now I give you 2 choices. 1, you do as you're told and follow my rules, or 2, you don't do as I'm told and you don't follow the rules. Either choice, however, you will not get rid of me. If you choose opinion number two, or option number two, I can assure you you'll have a miserable existence because anything you think you can do to me will not work. And if anything you can do has already been done or been tried, or I've tried it myself less than 2 years ago, now I will take advantage. Her attendance. At 2:30 that afternoon, I dismissed the class. By 2:37, I sat at the desk and cried. I had before my students who did not know what a noun was, couldn't name the vice president of the United States, and could only read at grade 3 level. I didn't even get to math, science, or social studies because I had to break up 2 fights and send another 4 students to the office. No one had left lesson plans, or half the class didn't have books. I gathered myself together and was about to go to the main office to tell them to get another substitute for tomorrow when I picked up an essay by the student named Tamesha. I hadn't given them any essay, or I had given them an essay translation busy work. While I tried to figure it out what I was going to do after lunch, the title of the essay was "The Most Important Person in My Life." Tamesha wrote about her aunt. When Tamesha was about 6, her mother died of a brain aneurysm in the family kitchen, forcing Tamesha, her older sister and younger sister, to live with them with her aunt and her 4 children. Tamesha's father was in prison and didn't remember meeting them. Tamesha's essay. Just a minute, I gotta have a drink of water. Tamesha's essay, while not grammatically the greatest, spoke volumes about per- perseverance and self-sacrifice. She wrote about how hard her aunt worked and talked about how the struggle was to feed her and clothe 8 kids. She said to her aunt she could have let Tamisha and her sisters become wards of the state, but instead she insisted that some things were more important than nice clothes and fancy meals. I felt guilty and looked down at my college ring. To me, it represented the culmination of 16 years of education, and it represented hard work and sacrifices to pay my own way through college. But then we always had plenty of food and nice clothes in our home. I tried to rationalize my decision not to come back. After all, I was educated in private Catholic schools, and I was white and came from regular nuclear family and suburban loving island, and my father went to work and my mother stayed home to care for my two brothers and me. What could I have teach them? I questioned the importance of admirable clauses in a world where metal detectors at schools entrances were a reality. I question my ability to teach American history when many of the children wouldn't have leave the streets of their cities, let alone leave the state. Two girls in the class were pregnant, and I didn't have the slightest clue as to what they were going to do. But I read again about Tamisha's aunt, and I went up to the blackboard and wrote the next date. Yeah, I I almost wrote 5 spelling words, and in black letters, as soon as you walk in, write the words 5 each, and get a dictionary. Write the definitions, and then put each word's in a sentence, and oh yeah, good morning class. And I left the poster taped to the board. I finished out school year at the Hunt Mat Middle School, and we played grammatical bingo. I don't know what that is. Using prizes bought at the dollar store, and we diagrammed sentences from rap songs. That would be fun. We had the strangest looking bulletin boards in school. We had extra help sessions after school, and I learned all the street names and in the projects by driving home everyone who got 90% or better on tests without a full cardboard or carload, and I was rarely home before 3:30. I don't know if I made an impact on any one student's lives. I don't know if it was possible to even make an impression, but in 3 months, I don't know if I learned more in those 3 months than I ever could sitting in a classroom studying the problems of the inner city for 20 years. I can't say that there's been a happy ending for one day. I came home late because I drove a car full of students home, and there was 3 days I came home frustrated and angry. But at the same time, for every one of student who made me angry, there was another one who earned my respect. Regina Clancy Heine wrote that. Well, even though these stories are either quite long or else really, really short, they often have a really good point to them. And they're not full of Bible quotes, or they're not full of a lot of wishy-washy stuff that's um, where you're don't want to listen to them. But I really appreciate the fact that the one viewer is in here. Here is called the Pony. I don't know how. It's not too long. It's only a page, a couple pages maybe. The doctor tried to break the news as gentle as possible. You don't know how long, or you don't know when you're little and you ask for a pony and you pray, or you know how when you're little and you ask for a pony and you pray and hope and you never get it? Well, this is same type of situation. Sometimes you don't get a pony. He's trying to tell Chris Wood's parents that the situation was hopeless even beyond their prayers. Chris was 21 and stationed in the Navy in San Diego that June in 1989 when, after the afternoon of drinking at the parade's game, he fell out of a pickup truck on the way home when the driver switched lanes. After he landed on the four-way highway, a car hit him. He bounced into another lane and was hit by another car. Luckily, the next vehicle to come along was an ambulance. Chris had a broken pelvis, jaw, elbow, and knee, massive head injuries, and truck marks across his back. For the next 3 months, the doctors pronouncements on Chris's progress were all negative. He will not live. He will probably be a vegetable. He will never walk. He will never have a meaningful life. His family back in Akron started prayer chains. One night, his sister was awakened, she says, by God, who whispered into her these words, "He will live and not die," and proclaim the mercies of God. From then on, that was the family's mantra. It got Chris through 32 surgeries and a 3-month coma and years of treatment at the Veterans Hospital in Cleveland, where he still goes for rehabilitation. I gotta have another drink of water. Just a minute. Chris, now 29, has the same bright blue eyes and sandy hair as before, but everything else has changed. His speech is slurred as if he's been drinking. The breathing tube damaged his vocal cords, and the head injury is slowing his thinking, and his face is a bit crooked from his jaw healing incorrectly. A purple zippered shaped scar runs up his left arm, which dangles by his side. He must concentrate to open his hand. Chris is walking. There is a walking hardware store. There's a screw in his elbow, a brace on his leg, a hinge in his knee, and a plate in his head. His brain no longer works the same. He used to excel at math, but now he struggles with the basics. He is enrolled in Kent University 6 years ago. He got D's and F's even in the simplest classes. One of his rehab workers urged him to drop out. He gave it some thought. His mind told him he has or he's wasting his time, but instead of listening, he turned to his favorite scripture passage for as he's thinking to his in his heart, so is he. His in English it means what you believe is what you're going to be if you think you are second and a failure or number one in front of the line that is what you will be, he said. He credits his mother for his success. Linda's coached him along using the Bible as her playbook. Chris now has 3 jobs. He interns at Edward Edwin Shaw Hospital working with head injury patients. He does computer design work. Wow. for a Living Water Fellowship Church in Akron, and he ushers for Akron Arrows. It took 3 tries to pass his driver license, but finally he got his license. It took 6 years of therapy, but last month or he put away his wheelchair. Today he's able to use a walker. He still struggles to catch up with his right words. When he talks, he pauses, squints hard, trying to force his brain to remember how to work. 2 weeks ago, Chris Wood gave his commencement address at his graduation without saying a word. He walked across the stage at Kent State University and picked up his diploma. He earned a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology to a standing ovation. He wasn't the smartest one there. He wasn't the only talented one there. Or he wasn't the most talented one there, but he was there. His mother never lived to see it. She died right before June of a heart attack. But she lived long enough to know the doctor who said it was hopeless wasn't even her was wrong. That doctor got a postcard from Chris's dad, Daniel, letting him know how it all turned out. It simply said, "We got Tony, Regina Brent. We got the pony." As soon as I read that part, I got chills. So, um, that was a good story. Um, okay. Now I realize that, okay, I'm doing a live and I'm, I said I had, before I said that I was going to do a chat and a cuppa or something. Well, I haven't got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or anything like that. But I'm going to end up cleaning my glasses because that last story was kind of hard to see. And I think it was because my glasses are dirty. I have a habit of smearing them an awful lot. So there. I think that will be better. Yeah, there. I almost smeared them again. And then I would have to clean them. This story, I don't know whether I read this or not before, but this is how much love can you fit in a shoebox? The little things, the little moments, they aren't little. On a cold and rainy February morning, my mom, four brothers, and I cleaned out Dad's apartment. There were 1,000 places we would have rather been, but we were together, and the rest of the world seemed distant. With Dad's funeral scheduled for the next day, it was all I could do to take my mind off the reality of his heart attack. Everything he owned was was in his apartment. He wasn't materialistic, yet everything belonged, yet every belonging seemed priceless. His countless drawers filled every room. His countless drawings, filled every room. His notepads of sketches he drew in the hospital had a flavor of who he really was, and determined in his deteriorating car, boy, and, and torn furniture didn't begin to describe what made him successful in my eyes. He took life one day at a time and never taking anything too seriously. It had it was his best quality and his worst. I was 37 years old and growing up much like him, putting tremendous value on the little things in life. I moped around from room to room, gathering souvenirs and throwing out garbage he never had the chance to. As I turned the corner and entered his bedroom, I quickly spotted the prized possession. It was four letter from my 8-year-old nephew declaring his unconditional love for his grandpa, how much he loved him, loved fishing with him, and how he hoped he would never die. Dad's heart melted and his eyes watered when he spoke of the letter. It touched him deeply. He proudly displayed it to any to everyone. I gathered the cleanup crew to read it one last time. We all seemed to realize where the letter belonged, with Dad forever. My mind was wandered back to the time I wanted to write a similar message to Dad. It was less than a year ago when I sat down to write. My heart wanted to fill the page with the traits and values I had grown up to respect. Before a single word had written or was written, my head took over and I realized Dad could never keep such a letter to himself. Even if I, or even if he promised never to show it to my brothers, I somehow knew his good intentions would eventually be overtaken by his powerful pride. I'd be embarrassed expressing such feelings at this point in my life. Besides, my actions had always spoken louder than words, so I didn't write it. Knowing Dad was indestructible, I always figured there'd be time. As the years rolled on, it bothered me that I had never wrote that letter. My mom wasn't getting any younger, and thoughts of not thanking her for all the things she had done for me started to creep in. Now, instead of feeling embarrassed, I wanted to include my brothers in this project. Christmas was only a month away, and what a great present this could be for all of us to write about something that we had never thanked her for. We all had to write something because one of us declined. I knew she'd put more weight on why one of us didn't write anything. It would not be an easy task to get my brothers to write. I needed a plan. I was committed to the point of listing my brothers' names in order from whom I imagined was the easiest to convince to the hardest. I determined Bob would be the easiest. He always got along with Mom. Gary would be the second. He usually mailed Mom a Mother's Day card. Mark was next. He hadn't spoke to her for 6 months. Even worse, he had 4 kids who weren't seeing their grandma, and I knew Grandma missed the kids. Rick lived in Rochester, and except for the occasional 9-minute obligatory trips to Buffalo to see her, he had limited contact with Mom. We all crafted our reasons for not staying in contact with Mom. My brothers and I didn't intentionally annihilate her, but we seemed to go out of our way to stay. We didn't stay in touch either. She seemed to perpetrate murder, and her words and tone of voice left us upset to the point where the frustration of her words overpowered our understanding of her hurt. I sat by the phone frozen in my thoughts. This would either happen or it would be the most embarrassing idea I ever shared with my brothers. So there I was, nervously shaking, feeling all the insecurities that kept me from writing Dad. By now, the what ifs were coming faster than my hands were moving towards the phone. But this was, I had, I was determined to succeed or be humiliated. So I picked up the phone and called Bob. I explained that I wanted, or what I wanted to do. Why had I wanted to do it was what my plan was. To me, Bob was a given, no problem, just a matter of explaining the game plan. When I got done with my 2-minute speech, there was a pause at the other end. Well, it would have been a lot easier if we had written one for Dad, he said, with a deadpan reasoning. Yikes. What kind of answer was that? I thought. This brother was for sure under some or under other circumstances I might have crumbled and agreed with him, but this was not the direction I had committed to take, so I restarted. Putting that aside, can you think of something you've never thanked Mom for? Sure, he said. Well, could you write a letter and have it ready to hand me on Christmas Eve when the family gets together at Mom's house? All right, I'll do it. He started without further hesitation. I hung up the phone and my first thought was good. I have one in the bank. I could use that to enroll brother number 2, 3, and 4. It was a plan. I hadn't expected Bob to give me any resistance, so I knew the job was going to get easier. It wasn't going to get any easier. Mark was next. I was nervous before I called him. Not only hadn't he spoken to Mum in months, I knew he was going to be mad at her. I started my conversation by explaining the idea and that Bob and Gary had already agreed. I was expecting my hardest time with Mark. I'll never forget what happened next. As I finished, he started right into a story. I remember when I was in my junior high, suspended for something I didn't do. I got home, when I got home, and Mom asked me, "Did I do it?" I said no, and she took me back to school to face Mr. Schofer, the most severe disciplinary teacher any student ever encountered. We marched into his office, and before I knew it, Mom was screaming at him, saying, "If my son said he didn't do it, he didn't do it." And when she was done with him, he was somewhat under the desk apologizing for his obvious mistake. Mark's story rolled off his lips as if it happened yesterday. I was shocked because not only hadn't I heard that story, but he recalled it so vividly. Rick was next. Had a similar story to Mark's from back in high school. Besides Bob, Gary, and Mark had already agreed, and my work actually seemed to get easier, but it was like my brother's stroll down memory lane rekindled a different message. And memory had of Mom, and I hopefully put them back to a time when she was always there, as if she had never left, or in the bank, at least verbally. 2 days before Christmas Eve, I called all 4 brothers, and each of them finished his letter. His final instructions were bring the letters to Mum, and I was going to put all 5 into a shoebox I had wrapped to give to her. Christmas Eve arrived, and I handed the box to Mum and said, "This present is from all of us. Do not open it until tomorrow." She looked puzzled, wondering what we were up to, but agreed and said thank you. Christmas Eve was always fun at Mum's, but this year it was special for me. I knew I pulled off something I couldn't have imagined, as my brothers and their families gathered to open the gifts or the presents this year. Closer, nicer, warmer. I drove home that night with a special feeling. greatest feeling of accomplishment. I recalled Mom talking to the grandkids and laughing all night long. Maybe the night was special for everyone. We seemed a lot closer to her that night, or maybe it was just me hoping that it was all this way again. Christmas morning the phone rang. It was Mom. She told me how she couldn't wait till morning to open the shoebox. She read all the letters 3 times and cried herself to sleep. She said, "I knew you were the one responsible for doing this. It was wonderful." I told her we were all responsible for doing this, and it was long overdue. I never knew that my brothers wrote in their what my brothers wrote in their letters, not completely. As for me, I included a story of when I was 10 years old, wanted to go to the sports competition. I can't remember the exact words, but it went something like this. No one seemed to feel it was a big deal, but you saw the disappointment in my face and said, "I'll take you." And you sat in the rain for over an hour as I tried my best to win a prize. I don't even think that I thanked you for it, but it meant a lot to me. I told you how hard it must have been for you to raise 5 boys while you were, or of us being a little closer to Dad. We knew that he got the easy job of playing a good boy or good guy while you were bad. Yep, you were the only one that taught us right from wrong, fair and unfair, and to apologize when we were wrong. You did that, and I thank you. Mom long had longed to hear such words for years, and it always in our hearts, but we never got to translate it to her. I always saw her cry after cooking Thanksgiving dinner. She would prepare it all day while Dad and my brothers and I gobbled it up and proceeded to the living room to tend to our own priorities. I see a lot of Mom and Dad in me, and I couldn't be happier. I started out wanting to do something for Mom to show her how she will be always there for us. And in hindsight, I really did it for Bob, Gary, and Mark, and Rick, and me. I hung up the phone that snowy Christmas morning, reclined on the couch to look up to imagine Dad wiping a tear from his eye. Seems everyone got something special out of this Christmas. Jim, swimming gold or something? Quack, 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 quack. Okay. Oh. getting windy again. I don't think that it ever stopped being windy. It says here 5 minute pledge for the girls. I don't know what girls was unless it was 4-H. The mom had it belong to. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite well, their page there isn't all that bad. So I was gonna say a lot of it seems to me like as if it's repetitive. Mm. I like this one. I like that. Like, who doesn't know that's a bag? Of course it's a bag. Bag. That's cute. Okay, I'm probably going to end this in a little bit by the time like it gets I really appreciate the fact that you come in there. Hi, how are you? I just wanted to, oh, bye. Just hello.